Imagine a gigantic wall whose foundation is buried with the lives of millions of people, and whose every brick is connected to the blood and sweat of an empire. This wall is not an ordinary construction, but a marvel that has turned human courage, greed, and fear into stone. The creation of this wall, which continued for thousands of years, cut through rivers, carved mountains, crossed deserts, and stretched its shadow all the way to the sea. Calling it merely a wall would perhaps be a mistake. It is a moving history, a structure that, just by looking at it, allows you to hear the voice of time. Yes, we are talking about that mysterious structure which the world knows as the Great Wall of China, spreading across nearly 21,000 kilometers. This creation is as unbelievable in its length as it is filled with stories. Its structure is not straight, but divided into scattered sections, as if many missing pieces have come together to hide an ancient mystery. In many places, this wall runs parallel to itself, like a shadow that is sometimes near and sometimes disappears. Understanding its length is not difficult. If you travel 3 times from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, only then can you truly feel its full scale. But do you know that till today, only 3 people have completed the journey from one end of this wall to the other? In the year 1985, when the world considered it merely a heritage, Yu and Deng and their 2 companions decided to cross this wall, and that too on foot. The difficulties they faced along the way were no less than a terrifying tale. It took a total of 5 days, meaning a full 17 months, and even then, they had only touched an unknown heritage. The surprising fact is that after them, till today, no human has been able to completely cross this wall. A mysterious line spread across the northern direction of China, passing through icy plains, deserts, lakes, high mountains, and deep valleys. This is not an ordinary wall, but a structure that moves forward by cutting through every form of nature, as if a divine creature wrapped in stone is making its own path. That is why the people of China call it the stone dragon, a dragon embedded in stone. This dragon is not just a symbol, but an ancient belief according to which, thousands of years ago, a divine dragon flew along this path, and, following it, thousands of laborers created this wall with their blood and sweat. In Chinese culture, the dragon is considered not only a symbol of strength, but also of energy, life, and protection. And when this symbol was shaped into a grand wall, that wall became an identity of their faith, intelligence, and system. Beyond history, this wall stands like a guardian that not only provided protection from enemies, but also became a boundary of unity and discipline. If we open the layers of historical records, this wall takes us thousands of years back to a time when people living in the Yellow River Valley were learning farming. On the other hand, regions like Mongolia and Manchuria were barren and filled with deserts. The nomadic tribes living there were involved in looting and attacks. Troubled by these repeated devastations, the peaceful people of China chose a king and made a decision to surround their empire defensively with a wall that would turn fear into protection. With this resolve came forward China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, in 223 BCE. Under his rule, the construction of this extraordinary wall began, but this work was not the achievement of a single king. For centuries, many dynasties continued to add to this wall, strengthen it, and expand it. More than 20 million laborers were involved in giving shape to this wall. These included common citizens, prisoners, and workers. The surprising thing is that even today, every part of this wall can be seen spread across different types of land. Somewhere, it disappears into scorching deserts, and somewhere it climbs such hilltops that even today human access seems impossible. That is why this wall has become not just a structure of bricks and stones, but a living saga of China's struggle, fear, faith, and sacrifice. Among those high hills where silence still echoes today, under the shadows of dense forests, a painful construction once continued, a construction that history calls a miracle, but whose foundation is buried with millions of screams. When the bricks of the Great Wall of China were being laid among these forests and valleys, for the laborers this was not a historic task. It was the harshest punishment of their lives. Hours of exhaustion, stones lifted on their shoulders, and sleep destined only on cold ground that was their everyday life. It is said that laborers worked 16 to 18 hours a day without stopping. There was no permission to return home, nor enough food to eat. In biting cold, they had to sleep beside the very wall where they had shed their blood all day. Many fell victim to diseases, some died of hunger, and those who fell into ravines while working were simply buried right there. The pace of work was so fast that there was no time even to stop for anyone's final rites. Historians believe that nearly 500,000 laborers lost their lives in building this wall, and because of this, it is called the largest cemetery in the world. Some people even consider it cursed to this day, because its construction not only took lives, but also drained the treasuries of many emperors. Now, a question arises in the mind. At a time when there was neither cement nor modern tools, how was such a grand and strong wall built? In fact, the foundation of this wall was laid with Kilbeck bricks, but these bricks were 4 times larger and heavier than today's bricks. First, the foundation was strengthened with granite stones. Then a layer of China's special soil was applied over it so that enemies could not easily climb the wall. To bind the bricks, a very unique mixture was used: lime and rice water. This is the secret that has kept this wall standing for centuries. About 500 billion bricks were used, from which one can imagine how much lime and rice mixture must have been consumed in this construction. But this was not just a wall. It was a moving fortress. Its average height was kept at 23 feet and its width at 21 feet, wide enough for 10 infantry soldiers or 5 horsemen to run side by side. In some sections, the height reached up to 35 feet. Protective railings were built on both sides so that soldiers would not fall and could respond immediately to attacks from any direction every 100 meters. A tall watchtower was constructed from where all directions could be observed. During the day, if danger was spotted, a flag was raised or a bell was rung, and at night, bonfires were lit to signal danger. Beneath these towers, small rooms were also built where soldiers could hide and plan strategies. And the small holes in these walls were not part of any ordinary construction. Some of them were fitted with cannon launchers, and from others, showers of arrows were fired. It is said that within this grand wall, there are also hidden paths known only to ancient Chinese soldiers. These underground tunnels were part of an invisible world spread beneath the wall tunnels, whose direction, entry, and exit were known only to special people. Although the Chinese government has, from time to time, discovered some tunnels, even today there are thousands of tunnels whose end has never been found, as if they have swallowed themselves with time. But as grand as this wall appears, the debate over its purpose has been equally sharp. In some pages of history, it has even been described as the most unsuccessful construction. The reason is that despite appearing so vast and impenetrable, it failed to stop enemies. In the 13th century, the most brutal and powerful Mongol leader, Genghis Khan, crossed this wall and entered China, and this story repeated itself later as well. In 1550, the Mongols breached it again, and in 1644, Manchu soldiers crossed the wall and overthrew the Ming Empire. From here, China's power passed into the hands of the Qing dynasty, which lasted for the next several centuries. What an irony! What was considered a protective shield often became merely a passageway. However, as time changed, the role of the wall also changed. During the Second World War, this very wall became a training ground for Chinese soldiers and a strategic shield against the Japanese army. At every turn of history, this wall has preserved the soul of China in some form. Today, it is not just a line of stones, but the heartbeat of the pasta place that attracts millions of people every year. As if every visitor has come to add a piece to an incomplete mystery. So would you also like to stand one day in the shadow of this mysterious wall and look toward those tunnels whose paths no one has discovered to this day? Would you like to feel those cold winds that once held the breaths of millions of laborers